in the continuation, we can copy and paste the grids just like the plans. Control C, and then pressing down Control V to paste it just like the plans. Watch this. Like this way. Finish. Press down. I set it to F. Or I can select and choose it from the properties, instance properties. Then I can select this, and then from the scope box, watch this. If I set the scope box to none, then we can change the height. Otherwise, the heights of the grid lines are being controlled based on the height of the scope box. As you can see, I move the scope box upward. Look the preview of the grids. But when we set the scope box to none, then we can change the dimensions of the grid lines in the 3D view. And another important point is that, let me close the architectural file or the floor plan. Then in the front view, in south view elevation, I open it, then I tile these two views like this way. South and 3D, I select this grid, look, and then I want to, let me see, actually the grid line is not shown in the south view, but if I move the level, as you can see, the changes are applied in the south view because the grid lines, let me see, I open the south view since I want to check the grid line in the south view as well while I'm selecting it in the 3D view. It is checked, okay, and then I show it. I get back to the 3D view, then let me select the grid lines from the scope box, filter, selecting the grids, then I set the scope box to none. Watch this, I choose grid line number 1, number 5, look, then if I move it, as you can see, it is being moved in the south view as well. Watch this, or in the corresponding views, look, so these views are dependent to each other. Control Z to set them to a scope box. Okay, so the reason was because of the scope box. Here in a scope box, I set it to grid, scope box 1, scope box 2. Look, we can show the grid lines in the south view based on the grid lines. Right click and then I reset it. Then we'll talk about the other issues. Let me see. Anyway, I turn it off. So we can copy and paste the grid lines, we can resize them, or even we can delete them in the 3D views. And another point is that, let me make a copy out of this grid line. As you can see, when we make a copy out of the grid lines from the scope boxes, look, select, then copy, and then I move it. Look, as you can see in this error message, the highlighted datum cannot be associated with the specified scope box because the datum place doesn't intersect to the scope box. So I dissociated the grid line from the scope box to add it, and then I can select the scope box and then to make an intersection between the grid and the scope box like this way, and I can use these snaps. Let me hide the scope box in the scene, and then after selecting the columns or other elements, as you can see, I want to show you that you can use these snaps. Watch this, on the grid lines. I mean, if we want to draw a wall on there, we can use these snaps on the grid lines as well. So this is one of the capabilities, one of the other capabilities we got the 3D views for the grid lines, but sometimes when we grid the grid lines, when we draw the grid lines using multi-segmented grids, let me just choose this, and then I want to draw a multi-segment grid like this way. Make this perpendicular or straight and finish. And then I wanna set this to B1 or B prime or whatever. I check this, and after that, let me see. Look, here we got the multi-segment grid. When we draw a multi-segment grid that, as you can see, then when we select it, we select the unitedly, as you can see. And after selecting it, we can edit it, we can resize it, change the height, width, and others. And the point here is that we can hold the cursor of the segments. Each of the segments, here we got 3 segments. If I press down the tab, we can select the segments individually, okay? But we cannot apply any changes on these segments individually. We cannot resize them. We cannot, as you can see, change the heights. As you can see, we are not allowed to add dimensions. But if we select them all, select the grid line, the multi-segment grid line unitedly, then we can resize it, we can move it, we can change its height, dimensions, and others. And finally, the tag for the grids. As you can see, I'm in these parts. We can model these tags just like the others, but we cannot add elbows here in the grid lines. For instance, we got the options of 2D and 3D, that we don't have the 2D and 3D in the 3D views. And note that we can show them, hide them, change them in the edit types, and after doing this, we can move on the project or organize them. This was the behavior of the grid lines in the 3D view.